Good morning, it's brew day at Wheatlow Brewery. Today we're going to do a robust porter. Rob from the Malt Miller has kindly sent me his favourite porter recipe. To up the eccentricity even more, we're going to make a TV commercial for this beer, and I've got a bit of an idea about it and we'll come back to that later. And a robust porter is certainly that. It's normally sort of 6%ish. And it's an American style of porter, which is based on an English porter, but using an American hops and a little bit stronger than a traditional English porter. Now this one is all Chinook hops, but we are going to anglicize it a little bit, and we're going to go, instead of using American Chinook hops, we're going to use UK grown Chinook hops. What's the difference? Well, the Chinook hops are famously sort of grapefruity, citrusy, possibly piney, that kind of traditional sea hop flavour from America. And UK hops do have that, but it's much more muted. And they're about half the strength of alpha acid, the bitterness compound in the hops. So we'll have to use a lot of them. We're going to match the IBU to the recipe for using American hops, so it will mean we use 1.5 kilos of hops, which is quite a lot. The only thing I'm not quite sure about yet is whether to retain the English hops in the dry hop. Will they be pungent enough to give you the effect that you want? The English hops will be a bit more muted and a little bit more earthy and possibly woody, and it's all to do with the terroir of where they're grown, a different climate and so on. So I think probably we will stick to English hops in the dry hop as well, because we're either doing it or we're not. So let's do it that way. And the malt bill is a malt I've never used before, Dingemans from Belgium, pale ale malt, and also the unique malt called Special B malt, which is a caramel malt, 300 EBC. And it's supposed to give you a caramel flavour and possibly a raisiny flavour. So that'll be also interesting. Then some chocolate malt as well, and wheat malt for head retention, because you want a nice creamy head on a porter. We're going to brew the beer obviously today, but before we do that we've got to make some room. Now in these tanks, there are 2 tanks here with Tribune and Land for the Lord that are ready. We need to get them into cask so that we can clean these tanks and use one of them today for this porter. So I've cleaned the casks, but I've got to sanitize them. We'll cask that whilst we're mashing in, but first job's to clean those casks. And then to up the eccentricity even more, we're going to make a TV commercial for this beer, and I've got a bit of an idea about it and we'll come back to that later. Better get cracking. very traditional English style. Back in the old days, before the sort of early to mid 1800s, all beer, most beer, was porter, a time where you used to do brewing using the party guile system, which means you use the grain, the mash, several times. So first of all, you would run the first runnings off the mash, which would be strong, and that would be a strong ale or an old ale. And then you would run another one off and get a lower gravity beer, and then possibly a third where you'd get small beer, table beer for drinking all day long, safer than water. And one day, a publican in London decided that he would do what they called at the time an entire beer, which was where he'd use the malt only once for one beer, and it would be entire and whole, and that would be a better quality beer, and he'd also store it as well to mature it in tanks in the brewery. The story goes that because the dock porters liked this beer so much, as it was in London, that's why the name porter stuck. So there's a little bit of history about porter beer. So there's always a great fuss made about India Pale Ale being exported, and Britain was a great beer exporter, but earlier than that, all the beer going abroad would be porter. In fact, a lot of people would have retained a taste for beer, for porter beer, even when the IPAs came along. So porter in those days would have been a bit stronger, and it would have used brown malt, certainly, in every recipe, and it would have been a reasonably hopped beer as well, which would also help it with being exportable. And porter was entirely suited to London water. The hard water in London reacts brilliantly with dark grains, and it's got the right nutrients in, right minerals in to work well with dark malts. So that's another reason why London was so famous for porter. So just started doing a bit of Vorlauf circulation, and look at the colour of it at the moment, and I think, or I expect, that this will change as the chocolate malt integrates. I'm going to go measure the water salts out whilst that's circulating away. Okay, so certainly a darker colour now. Temperature's bang on, 66 we're looking for, 66.7, so water salts going in. What is a porter? Well, porter is a dark brown beer. Looks black really, but it's probably dark brown. That originates from London, and it was invented in 1722, allegedly by a chap called Ralph Harwood, proprietor of the Bell Brew House in Shoreditch, East London. At the time, there were often three kinds of beer served in a pub, probably to do with the party guile brewing system, where you use your grain once, first time, and you get a strong beer, second time a weaker beer, and the third time you reuse the malt, you get a small beer or a table beer that you can drink all day long, because obviously drinking water wasn't so good, so beer was a much safer option. Now often publicans would have these in three separate barrels behind the bar, and some customers would ask for a pint of mixed, and the original porter beer was launched to brew it in one go without reusing the mash, and to try and get as much goodness into the beer as possible from the grains all in one beer. And it was therefore served from one barrel in the pub. It was easier for them, but they could also command a much higher price for it because it was a higher quality product. And they therefore called the beer at that time entire, because it was the entire beer in one cask. The story goes that dock workers, specifically porters, loved this beer so much in that East London area that the beer eventually became named after them. So it'll typically be, in those days it would have been a bit stronger, 5, 6 maybe percent. It was always been relatively well hopped, and these days an English porter is well hopped still, but also not necessarily very strong, 4 to 5%. And a robust porter like we're doing today, the American style, is a bit stronger, around the 6% mark, and with much more pungent American C hops commonly used in it. Porter became big business in London. At the time there was thousands, literally, of little breweries in London, and the nature of porter meant that because it had to be stored in the brewery, that the bigger tanks you had, then the more you could store and therefore more you could sell. And so this was really the start of big beer production. Breweries like Whitbread and Barclay Perkin and other breweries in London grew rapidly on the back of porter. It became a huge export, and it was really the biggest beer, of course, at the time, until IPA came along probably 100 years later. So it's a very important part of our history. It did fade to obscurity, really, porter in Britain in the post-war period, and it didn't remain very popular. Just a couple of microbreweries kept it alive, but now that craft brewers like to make all different styles of beer, it's certainly getting a revival. And also, of course, it's delicious beer. It's not like a stout in that it's not as dry, it's not as acrid, roasty sort of flavour. It's much more rounded and smooth, but still with a good level of bitterness from the hopping. A thick, creamy head, and well, let's brew it and let's try it and see what we think. That's a short history, having done a bit of research in the books, of porter. Looking forward to drinking some later in the video. Look at these UK Chinook hops. So, alpha acid 6.2. I've got some American ones here. They're 12.5, so they are sort of half as pungent, at least in terms of bitterness. They definitely smell the grapefruit, but there is that woodiness there. Let's see how it compares to the smell for the American ones. Yeah, much more citra kind of aroma on the American ones to the UK. So we kind of are making this porter a bit more English in fact and sort of in the taste. It's got more, yeah, more woodiness, more earthiness, and less citra. So we'll see. 340 grams for the start. Cook them in. Okay, 5 minutes to go in the boil. 500 grams of more UK Chinook to add. So 1, 2, 3, 5, 2. We'll set the timer for 5 minutes, and then we've got another 260, I think, to add flame out. So this is the fermenter we're using, and we have to take all these fittings, well, there's loads more than this, all these fittings off every time, put them through the dishwasher, to make sure that they're clean and there's no trapped yeast around the seals and things like that. So we put them back together. So it's cool to have a uni tank. This is an X3, Brewbuilt X3. It's cool to have all the ports. There's loads on top as well. You can put whatever you want on it. The downside is the more ports, the more you've got to take them apart, because you can't just not take it apart. You have to. If you've ever think to yourself when brewing, should I take this apart to clean it, or will it be all right? The answer is you take it apart to clean it every time, and it's just a discipline that you have to have. So I've just put some hot water in here, about 10 litres, and some Chem Clean, which is basically a caustic cleaner. Still got a yeast ring around the top, and what we'll do then is connect the pump, circulate it round through a sip bowl. That's whirring away. You can probably hear it. Spinning. We'll leave that to it for 10-20 minutes. Just forcing a bit of sanitizer through the carbonation stone to make sure that we've not got any nasty in that. We'll whip that in. Okay, now we just need to circulate a bit of hot water through the heat exchanger to sanitize it, and then we can transfer it over. Right, that's brew day complete. Just got to put the yeast in, US-05. So just going to stick that in now. Seal him up, let him do its business. Okay, so now the yeast's out, we can do the dry hop. We've got four packets, 400 grams of UK Chinook, and just going to spray some alcohol on everything to make sure we're nice and sterile. Sanitize. And so what we're going to do is going to undo this lid now that the pressure's off. Literally, we're going to put some gas in at the bottom, just slowly. And what that's doing is it's coming up through the carbonation stone and up through here to sort of make carbon dioxide overflow, so we don't get too much air in it. However, this means we haven't got long, because we've effectively, the beer could boil over effectively, you know, like when you shake a can of Coke up. So we'll just get these in as soon as we can. Sometimes when you pour them in, the increased surface area of the actual pellets and or the reaction with them makes it froth up, and sometimes you can just, if the beer's fizzy, it can really froth up. This one isn't too fizzy because it hasn't been fermented under pressure. Right, so now turn that up to about 10 psi. Quick squirt, valves open. So what I'll do now, turn the gas pressure quite high and then just pulse it. So let me go and clip the microphone. Spunding valve going up. Maybe open that. So by doing a high pressure burst, it sort of really wakes it up. So if any hops have sunk below the carbonation stone, hopefully there'll be enough churn to get them back into suspension. Oh, beer's coming out. Right, that's enough then. So we've definitely fizzed that up. Okay, so hops are in. Possibly rouse that, as we call it, again tomorrow. But 2 days should be enough to get the flavour out of these hops. Spray this to wipe down the beer that's squirted everywhere. 2 days, and then we'll cool it again to 2 degrees, and that'll just help have all the hops settle down. And then we can either keg the beer or we can dump the hops and then keg the beer. As long as it's sunk, it shouldn't make much difference. So, see you in a couple of days. Right, the porter is ready to package. We've done the dry hop for 2 days, and now we've cooled it down to 2 degrees, so everything's settling down. Now, if we wanted to, we could condition it in the uni tank, but we'd have to drop the hops out in order to do that, and we could carb it up with a carb stone and so on, but I'm not going to do that on this occasion because I see this as primarily a cask beer, so we're going to cask it. We can also then, if we want to, bottle condition some by bottling it from the cask. So I've got a load of barrels down here, casks rather. I've just washed them with the caustic, and now I just need to sanitize them with this acid no-rinse sanitizer. So the way I do that is, and washing the casks, is in the brewery itself here, because it's got a good pump, and I've got a sip ball, spray ball, sticking up. Just add the sanitizer, and I've got some warm water in there. So all I need to do, put these on here, make sure that's open, switch on. Yeah. So I'll get all these cleaned, and then we'll put the porter into the casks, get it in the cellar. I expect with this being what you might call a bigger beer, it's stronger, but it's also very rich. Maybe we'll need a little bit longer in the cask before we drink it, rather than my normal impatient sort of 5 days. We'll see how we get on with that, shall we? Right, so 4 pins, 4.5 gallons, and 1 9-gallon firkin. So I'm just going to let this flow a little bit to flush out any yeast in the sample pot, and then should be able to get a nice sample. Certainly still a bit cloudy. That's a hell of a beer. It's got massive hop bitterness in it and massive dark roasted malt character as well. Might need a knife and fork for this, but I think that once it's just matured a little bit and calmed down, I think it might actually be quite nice. But at the moment it's pretty pretty intense, and you think maybe half only. Saying that though, it has worked out because of the high finishing gravity. I'll check it again in a minute, but the last time I checked it was 1020. Quite high, very high really. And that means that it's only going to be about 5.1 off the top of my head, something like that. So it's not as strong. It should have been over 6 really. But my numbers came out a little bit low from the mash and it hasn't attenuated, i.e. the yeast hasn't eaten as much sugar and turned it into alcohol as we would have liked. But that gives it a big body and it does grow on you. All in the casks, give them a quick rinse. There we are, all tucked up in the cellar. Frothers, remember earlier on I said we were going to make a TV commercial for this beer? Well, obviously it's a ridiculous idea, but I can't get out of my head a scene from the film Charge of the Light Brigade from 1968. And there's some iconic beer scenes in film history, aren't there? I think the best of all time is the ice cold in Alex scene when they've been in the desert for weeks and they make it back to a bar and have a cold, delicious beer, condensation running down the side of the glass. It's amazing. But one of the best scenes relevant to porter is in the Charge of the Light Brigade, where Lord Cardigan loses his bottle. In fact, if you search for Lord Cardigan loses his bottle, you'll find the original clip on YouTube, and I'll put that in the description as well, a link so you can see that. So before we get on to tasting the beer, let's just take a quick commercial break and then we'll come back and taste the beer. Yes, just set it down over there, will you? Bouteille de Noir. You're drinking beer, sir. Porter beer. Yes.
No.
Sit.
No, my lord.
Don't you know me, sir? That is a black bottle.
I assure you, my lord.
That is a black bottle, and you are drinking porter from it.
Champagne only. You knew that. I am not aware.
I am aware that you are drinking porter at my table, sir.
Sit down, Captain Nolan. Sit down, Featherstonehoff.
What his lordship said was that it was champagne only in the restaurant. What he said was...
It is not porter, my lord. It is Chinook wine.
Apologize.
If I am in error...
Quibble with me, sir. No, I will not have beer in my mess. Come back, Nolan. Nolan, you will not need the mess. Dog!
charge of the Light Brigade. Frothing porter beer.
And this is the finished porter. It's called Charge of the Light Brigade, and it pours a very dark ruby brown colour. Basically it looks black, but it is browny colour with a lovely thick creamy head. And I'm having it in halves because it's that kind of beer, and it is a Tuesday as well. So, and it's got to be a dimpled half, hasn't it, for a beer like this? So aroma-wise, the aroma's not massively strong. Some woodiness, some herbal stuff, probably from the UK Chinook hops, which are a bit more woody than their American counterparts. Bit of fruit like plum or something like that. But quite a faint aroma. You can't smell it until you get it quite close to you. Some beers you can smell from here, can't you? But this one, you have to get it quite close. So let's go in for mouthfeel. Well, there's absolutely no doubt. It's completely full-bodied, this beer is. It's as full, and it's called a robust porter. It's as full and robust as any beer you could ever have. It coats the inside of your mouth and lingers there, releasing layers of taste in waves. It's really quite extraordinary. So the first thing that you get is a massive smack of licorice. And I don't mean licorice sweets. I mean, like if you have a piece of wood, a licorice root, and you sort of chew on that, it's kind of combination between licorice and woodiness. And then you get quite a pithy grapefruit bitterness. But then it mellows in your mouth as the malt kind of kicks in to counterbalance it. And then you get some of the lighter. There's even like a hint of tobacco or something like that there. Possibly a bit of chocolate, dark chocolate you taste. And then you get some lighter stuff like lemon, very faint lemon. And those sort of plummy, raisiny notes as well. It's a really complex, heavy-duty, full-bore, black beer. But it's absolutely weirdly beautiful. Your first reaction is to think, blimey, what's that? Such an intense flavour. And then you just, because the flavour changes in your mouth as it moves over the different parts of your tongue, and as the different things sort of evaporate in your mouth, you've kind of forgotten what it tasted like at the beginning by the end of the tasting, so you have to have another sip. It's a kind of pleasant circle. I won't call it a vicious circle. It really is. Quite a beer. I mean, you wouldn't want 5 pints of it on an early Sunday afternoon on a hot summer's day, but listening to the crackling of a open fire with a large grandfather clock ticking in the background as you think on a Sunday afternoon in your favourite chair. A few of these would go down nicely. Today we tried it with 2 things. Little lumps of cheddar cheese, absolutely beautiful. Any dark beer goes well with cheese like that, I think. But also a Christmas cake, well, a fruit cake. So, and that was again absolutely beautiful. The same kind of fruity notes mingled in with the beer. They definitely complement each other. But also, I mean, it comes to something when a beer is so heavy and rich that you have to have a piece of fruit cake to lighten it up. But I must say I do like it. It isn't perhaps instinctively my first choice of kind of beer. I tend to drink a lot of pale, easy drinking 4% beers, but this is absolutely amazing. It's almost like a Guinness head on it. So what could we change about this beer next time? Well, we did it with UK Chinook hops, so we could try it with the American Chinook hops. It's not desperate for more grapefruitiness or bitterness, but we'd adjust the IBUs so they were the same. So technically it would be the same bitterness. Be interesting to see what effect that would have doing it with the American hops. Next porter I would probably try a very traditional English porter, which would be quite smooth and easy drinking, moderately hopped, almost session strength 4.5. I think that would be an interesting beer to do. This one certainly have to only put it in pins, and rather than 4.5 gallon barrels rather than 9 gallon barrels. And we did have pints of it the other night and enjoyed it, but I think on a weeknight probably just a couple of halves. Yeah, but really enjoyable experiment. This is Rob Neal's favourite porter, or it was when I asked him, and he kindly sent me the recipe. The recipe is on the Malt Miller website as a kit. It's called Rob's Robust Porter with Chinook hops or something like that. So you can find that on there. I'll put a link in the description anyway if you want to have a go at this. Definitely worth a go. And what I think I will do is bottle condition some of this, and then it can come out on special occasions, and then you don't have to have a full barrel of it in a relatively short period of time. So I think it will definitely lend itself well to bottle conditioning, because it'll mature and mellow probably as the bottle ages, and you can keep it quite a few years really if it's bottle conditioned. So yeah, very pleased with that beer.
It smells absolutely incredible.
So anyway, I should really go and get you a knife and fork for this. It's a monstrous, massive beer.
You're a genius. This is your own beer, isn't it?
No, this is I can't take the credit for this recipe.
Oh my
this
God.
is from Rob Neal at the Malt Miller. So now he says
that's smoky as well, a bit smoky.
Yeah, he says it's his favourite porter, and he must like some fair dark stuff. So well, go on. What do you think it tastes like?
Right, so that's drinking beer in a smoky room. That's like cigar-y, tobacco-y.
Yeah, it's definitely tobacco.
Oh, God, that is absolutely amazing. I don't want to swear, but that's fucking amazing.
I think it's like, you know when you get a licorice, like a stick of licorice?
The real licorice.
Imagine if you'd stored that in a humidor with cigars overnight, and it'd absorb cigar taste, and then you chew it. Licorice hit, massive.
Do you know when when we talked about the almonds earlier on, and you went, it's not until someone makes the suggestion. Like, I used to love.
Hello.
First time.
How are you? All right. Good to see you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Welcome. Which one are you on?
I don't know.
You've got to try them all. You'll be all right on pints. There's 11 of them. I'll come find you in a minute, just recording a video.
All these? Are they on tap?
We're just recording a video. I'll come catch up with you in a minute.
You'll be famous tomorrow.
Yeah, it's live streaming across the world.
I know, yeah. It's like GMTV on steroids.
Yeah.
So it's not until you said licorice that then it snapped in my brain.
Yeah.
I remember years and years ago, I love licorice, but remember the little tins where you got the pellets? I don't know whether you...
I don't remember that, no.
No, I'm probably a bit older than you, mate. I don't know.
I wouldn't say that, I just don't. I never used to like licorice.
Oh, I look older than you. But yeah, so I love licorice, but you know, like the licorice all sorts, or the Bassett's licorice, it's like sweet licorice, but I like that nice bitter.
Yeah, that's what this is, isn't it? The bitter. That's what I said about the stick, the root, or whatever it is.
And that is literally lovely and dry on your tongue, and it's.
And if it was the American hops, I think it would go probably more citrusy, more grapefruity, but doesn't really need that, does it?
No.
It's got a deep, long-lasting bitterness that stays in your mouth.
Oh, that's dry, smoky, bitter. That is a sort of beer where you drink it together and you start forgetting about what you talked about the day after. It's chill out by the fire on a winter's day.
You need a fire with it, don't you?
Yeah.
You just really do.
Good God.
It's got to have the crackling of a fire in the background, but it's a hell of a beer.
Oh, it's 5.6%, isn't it, this one?
I think so, yeah, roughly. I knew that Speno was coming today, so I thought I wanted to open as many casks or as many beers as possible so I could taste them. But then I thought, well, better invite some people to drink them, neighbours and friends, because otherwise, you know, we've got to drink the casks. So that's why there's perhaps a bit of background noise, but hopefully you can see and hear the froth in between the background noise.
But it's great because it gives a little bit, it gives that lovely atmosphere, you know. It's always nice to watch a video with a bit of atmosphere, and the atmosphere in here is fantastic. Everybody's loving it in here. You know, you're the best neighbour in the world. Like, you just need to move to Wixton in Leicester. It's everything about a beer that I love. It's the sort of beer that, like, you just put it down, reflect of what you drank, stare into the stars at night, put another log on the fire, and then go and grab another one because it's making you salivate and it's making you want more. That is just absolutely outrageously good. I can't even tell you that. That reminds me a little bit when because we're going to the Sri Lanka Brewery in September, and their original smoked beer is absolutely fantastic. But it's sort of like it's got like a nice Moorish sweetness about it. Whereas the porter that I've just drank here with Richard is right up my street. It is giving me everything that I love in a beer that you want to go back to, but then it completely dries you out, and then you quench your thirst with a beer, then it dries you out, and it's absolutely amazing. So absolutely amazing. I've loved tonight. What a fantastic experience. It's just been amazing. I just can't even it's like the highlight of my beer reviewing career, and also it's an honest taste of all the beers.
Yeah, I think
I am totally and utterly steaming.
Yeah, I think we've had a good night.
Richard,
cheers.
Thank you so much, legend.
Frothy nail.
Frothy nail.
Brilliant. So don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe, and leave us a comment. Tell us what you think, and what, if any, particular porters you've tried in the past to brew or to drink, and whether you can try one of those perhaps for the next time we do a porter. In the meantime, I'm going to finish this half and probably get another one because it's frothing ale. Cheers.